When you think of the Northeast Corridor, you'd probably think of the Acela Express, Northeast Regional trains, and most of all, high speed. One of the elements of the Northeast Corridor is the yards. One of them, called Hudson Yard, is mostly New Jersey Transit's maintenance shops called the MMC, or Meadowlands Maintenance Complex. And the yard mainly serves only one NJ Transit line. Most of the trains there are either waiting to be fixed or waiting to be moved to another yard to be stored again for the next 1,000 years. This MMC is located in Harrison, New Jersey, right next to Newark's two major interchange stations, Newark Penn and Newark Broad. Newark Penn serves 3 NJ Transit lines, PATH trains, and 11 Amtrak routes. Newark Broad only serves just 3 NJ Transit lines that have connections to Hoboken Terminal, along with Newark's light rail network called the Newark City Subway. Anyway, you read the title of this video. Let's talk about this so-called train station that existed way before the yards. Like I said, Hudson Yard is located in Harrison, the town of which also houses another PATH station that's also next to Newark. Hudson Yard used to be the station called Manhattan Transfer, and at the time it was built, it was located on the Pennsylvania Railroad's main line, out of Exchange Place in Jersey City. The station was built in 1910. Until then, none of the railroads that crossed New Jersey to reach New York City crossed the Hudson River. Instead, passengers rode to terminals on the Hudson waterfront where they boarded ferries. The dominant Pennsylvania Railroad was no exception. Its passenger trains only ran to Exchange Place in Jersey City. On November 27, 1910, the Pennsylvania Railroad opened the New York Tunnel Extension, a line that ran through a pair of tunnels under the Hudson River to New York Penn Station. This new line branched off the original line just 2 miles east of Newark, then ran northeast across the Jersey Meadows into the tunnels. Just west of the split, the PRR built the Manhattan Transfer Station. Passenger trains bound to Newark Penn paused there so that their steam locomotives could be replaced by electric locomotives that could run through the tunnel under the river. The station also allowed passengers to change trains. Riders on the main line could transfer to local trains to Exchange Place, where they could catch ferries, or Hudson and Manhattan Railroad subway trains to 33rd Street Terminal in Manhattan. And riders from Exchange Place could change to the PRR mainline trains. It basically held the same function as the station in Dover, Secaucus, and South Amboy, New Jersey, before that part of the line was electrified. The Hudson and Manhattan Railroad, or H&M, would soon become PATH, or Port Authority Trains Hudson. They started running trains between Hudson Terminal in Manhattan and Park Place in Newark on October 1st, 1911. H&M trains stopped at Exchange Place, Grove Street, Summit Avenue, Manhattan Transfer, and Harrison. Afterward, H&M trains stopped on the outer tracks of the 2 Manhattan Transfer platforms, allowing passengers to transfer from Penn Station-bound trains. H&M trains also carried mail bound for PRR trains, retrieving first-class letters sent from the Church Street Post Office near Hudson Terminal, and transferring the letters to PRR trains at Manhattan Transfer. Manhattan Transfer actually served way more trains than you might think. The PRR main line is only being mentioned here, but other lines and other railroads made stops here. The PRR had its New Brunswick line stop here as well, along with the Lehigh Valley Railroad's main line and even the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad's main line until 1926. The H&M ordered MP-38 railcars to run this special service in partnership with the Pennsylvania Railroad. The McAdoo Reds, as the MP-38s were called, ran only between Manhattan Transfer and New York City, carrying the logos of the PRR and H&M to show their partnership. Until 1922, the PRR also operated a shuttle service from Manhattan Transfer to New York Penn Station using 6 converted MP-54 cars. Though this was an incredible start to interchange stations, as you might expect, it had issues. During the Roaring '20s, a spate of serious accidents involving H&M trains took place at Manhattan Transfer. A collision between 2 PRR trains occurred at Manhattan Transfer on October 27, 1921, injuring 36 people. The cause was heavy fog covering a train signal. Less than a year later, on August 31, 1922, heavy fog caused another collision. This time, the collision was between 2 H&M trains. 50 people were injured, including 8 who were severely injured. Another collision happened between 2 H&M trains near the station on July 22, 1923, killing one person and injuring 15 others. Another crash between two PRR trains occurred at the station on February 24, 1925, killing 3 and injuring 32 more. That is 4 major accidents in not even 5 years. In 1913, the Pennsylvania Railroad's board voted to electrify its main line in the Philadelphia area using an 11 kV overhead catenary system. This had to do with the PRR's unwieldy operations at Broad Street Station in Philadelphia, where trains had to enter and leave the terminal from the same side, and congestion frequently arose because of the length of time needed for steam locomotives to switch directions. Tracks at Manhattan Transfer were originally electrified with 650-volt third rail, which was mainly used by the PRR electric trains to Penn Station and Exchange Place, and by H&M trains between Park Place and Hudson Terminal. In 1928, the PRR and the Newark government agreed to build a new Newark Penn Station to replace 3 stations, Manhattan Transfer, Park Place, and Pennsylvania Railroad's Market Street Station in Newark. Newark Penn was to be a quarter-mile south of Park Place. The H&M would be extended to Newark Penn via the new approach tracks over the Passaic River, and H&M and PRR passengers would be able to connect at Newark Penn instead of Manhattan Transfer. Contracts to electrify the PRR tracks south of Manhattan Transfer with 11 kV overhead wires were awarded in 1929. 2 years later, in light of low interest rates and high unemployment, the PRR's president announced plans to speed up the electrification project, with plans to complete it in 2.5 years instead of 4. In addition, new approach tracks to Newark Penn would be built over the Passaic River. PRR trains to Exchange Place started using the 11 kV catenary system in December 1932. Within 2 months, the PRR had completed electrification of the main line from Philadelphia north to New York Penn Station, and south to the PRR station in Wilmington, Delaware, and west to the Paoli station in Pennsylvania. By March of 1933, most PRR trains on that stretch of the main line were pulled by electric engines, but PRR trains continued to stop at Manhattan Transfer for the H&M connection. Around 1930, the third rail west of the West End tunnels were ripped up. On June 20th, 1937, the H&M moved from Park Place to Newark Penn Station, and Manhattan Transfer and Park Place closed. Newark Penn allowed transfers between the H&M, the PRR, and the newly extended Newark City subway, and had exits to the street. Manhattan Transfer was demolished, but the site of the platforms can still be seen through the 1960s. The site of the eastbound platform was partly replaced by a yard for the Central Railroad of New Jersey in 1967. After the opening of the Aldine connection, the C&J started running trains to PRR's Newark Penn Station, and the C&J stored its trains in the yard on the eastbound platform site. The Manhattan Transfer name later became famous, and it was used in other contexts. In 1925, John Dos Passos published an acclaimed novel about the busyness of New York City. The tributes to Manhattan Transfer Station included a jazz vocal ensemble formed in 1969. It was estimated that 230 million passengers had used the Manhattan Transfer Station during its 27 years in operation. It operated from 1910 until 1937. Today, the station is just Hudson Yard. Dozens of trains pass by the yard or leave from the yard every day. Newark Penn basically replaced it and still sees current path trains on its red line to World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. I appreciate you all for watching the video. I've been wanting to research this topic for a while now, and I'm glad I finally got to do it. So if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe for more history videos coming soon. Have a great day.